He led the city of Grand Rapids for years before stepping down in 2016, but that doesn't mean that George Heartwell hasn't been busy. Our Derek Francis sat down with him recently to see what life is like now.
Yeah, former Grand Rapids Mayor George Heartwell has been in the news recently since his naming by Governor Whitmer to chair the Natural Resources Commission. But even before that, he's remained quite active, just a little more spread out across West Michigan these days.
I, Rosalind List, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
When George Heartwell 4 years ago walked away from the job he had held for a dozen years, tied for the longest tenure as mayor of Grand Rapids, he admits at first there was some adjusting.
I missed, especially during the first year, being in the center of the action and knowing what was going on, and being the first to know what was going on often.
Heartwell moved out of Grand Rapids shortly after leaving office.
As you can see, I'm kind of tucked in the woods here of northern mid-Michigan and loving our life here.
The move came partly at the request of his wife Susan, who knew if they stayed around the city, he was too likely to, quote, poke his nose where he maybe shouldn't.
Are you doing too much for her liking, or did you guys find a happy medium because you are active?
Oh, that's a fair question. Yeah, absolutely. I think we've found a good mix. Susan knows me well enough to know that I'm always going to have some engagement.
Engagement is an understatement for this very active, now 70-year-old.
I want to be useful for as long as I can be.
In his first couple of years out of office, he worked in the Office of Sustainability Practices at Grand Valley State University part-time.
That gave me an opportunity to sort of ease into retirement. It also let me stay involved in some of the things that were important to me.
And that's included several boards.
I was invited to serve on, and now I chair the Newaygo Economic Development Corporation Board. And so that's given me an opportunity to bring some of the things we learned in Grand Rapids to this new community.
He's also spent time on the State Transportation Commission and others, mostly involving his longtime passion of water and the environment. In fact, when we met, he had just returned from a month in Florida, spent mostly on a boat.
All of my fishing is catch and release. Well, no, let me be honest about that. A walleye, when I catch a walleye, he goes straight to the frying pan.
But back in Michigan for Heartwell, this time of year is maple syrup season.
I tap my maple trees. That's one of the things that I started doing in retirement was making maple syrup. So I've got a little sugar house out there, and I put about 40 to 50 taps out each year, and I'm making maple syrup and having fun doing it.
He also considers himself a novice beekeeper.
They're fascinating to me, and they're facing some pretty significant threats these days, and they're very, very important to us. So I keep a couple of hives of bees.
And as part of his exercise regimen, he cross-country skis around his 30 acres.
We've got a east-facing wall here with windows looking out over the Muskegon River. We're high up. We look out over the river valley. Tucked in the trees.
Heartwell, who would have been forced to step aside after the mayoral position in Grand Rapids was term limited, said he knew before the ballot proposal passed that 12 years was enough for him.
Would you have envisioned sticking around longer doing what you did?
No.
No?
No. For one thing, I knew that I had a competent successor who was ready to step up and do the great things that she's done in this city. She's taken now and owned and is moving forward. Things like the restoration of the rapids in the Grand River, which I think is a great project. It was my project. It is now her project. Yeah. So there's a lot of that continuity that I'm seeing, and I'm really grateful for that.
He's also grateful for the journey that he's been on.
My path from mortgage banking to ministry to higher education to political office was a circuitous path, right? And I never would have imagined going there. But my goodness, what a ride it has been. A great ride.
Heartwell also told me he's most proud of the culture of sustainability in City Hall and the entire community of Grand Rapids that he helped contribute to, and that it's growing economically, benefiting all people, and without threatening the environment or natural resources. In the studio, Derek Francis, Fox 17 News.